Good evening and a very warm welcome to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat tonight is a guest who's travelled all the way from Karachi in Pakistan to Sri Lanka. And to find out more on what quite brings this visitor to our island, let's meet our guest, Miss Maliha Siddiqui, who is a senior sub-editor and reporter at the Dawn group of newspapers in Karachi in Pakistan. Good evening, Ms. Siddiqui, and welcome to the Hot Seat.
Thank you for having me.
And in fact, welcome to Sri Lanka. And may I ask, what brings you to Sri Lanka?
Well, we are here. I'm a part of a group of Pakistani journalists, and some of us had visited India, and we did some reporting assignments, and likewise the Indian group of journalists, not all of them got visas, but they came to Pakistan, and we are here in Colombo to talk about our experiences, and also because right now the tension between the two countries is at a recent time it's quite high. So
between Pakistan
and in India. So it was thought that it's best that we meet at Colombo.
On neutral territory.
Yes, on neutral territory.
Right.
Yeah.
And isn't that wonderful that Sri Lanka is playing its own little, perhaps cameo role in furthering the relationships between India and Pakistan. Wonderful news, that. Good news for our country, and perhaps better news for the hoteliers who are hosting you. And has it been fruitful, your engagement?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been an amazing experience. Also because some of the Indian teams, in fact most of the Indian teams, were not able to come to Pakistan because they were not given visas. But coming to Colombo, we got a chance to interact with each other, and also to hear from them what stories they wanted to do with us. But despite those hurdles, we are still going ahead with some cross-border projects. Also, secondly, it was also a great chance to meet with the local Sri Lankan journalists and to talk about Sri Lankan press and the state of press and the state of media, because some of them spoke. So this was our very first interaction with Sri Lankan press. Normally we come to Sri Lanka, if we ever do come to Sri Lanka, it's purely for touristy reasons. But this is the first time that we were all engaging with them at a professional level, and to discuss with them and to discuss with each other the ideas and the stories that we want to do. So yeah.
Oh, that's good. And what did you hear from our journalists? Did you hear how bad it was and how better it is?
Yes, they spoke about the comparison as to how it was in the previous government and how it is compared to the current government, and even the fact that they were there speaking for them was a huge milestone in their lives, because they felt that just a few years ago they just
were not able to do it.
Were not able to do it. We got a chance to hear Lasantha Vikramatunga,
yeah.
He who was assassinated. So his niece, who was also a journalist, she spoke about the trauma and the experience, and shared it with us. And in Pakistan, a lot of journalists have been killed as well. So for us, it was an experience that we understood, and it was very brave of her to speak to us about it. So, and the kind of alternative journalism that's happening, how the media has opened up in terms of television, radio, online. So I thought that was it's a great opportunity to.
And the titles that you work with in Pakistan, does it also, how much of it is web-based?
Well, so all media groups now have a web presence, all of them. So some of them are just spin-offs of the newspaper. Some of them are take content from the newspaper as well, but they also are creating original content. So Dawn Media Group has a very strong online presence. In fact, I would say it has the strongest online presence, and it has globally it has had a far-reaching impact, because the kind of comments that you get to hear, get to read, you know that a lot of people are reading the online content.
What about the ownership of these smartphones that everyone has? What's the penetration level like in Pakistan?
Well, it's growing exponentially, and it is one of the fastest growing internet-based, smartphone-based usage in Asia. Very soon, I think it will, more than half the country will be in possession of smartphone. So yes, so I don't remember exactly the figure, but it has made a huge impact, and the penetration is quite far and wide.
That's good. And because this is your fourth visit to
third visit
to
yes.
Sri Lanka, and you have a sort of claim to fame
yes.
in this tour of Sri Lanka, which we'll ask you all about after we go into this short commercial break. And don't go away, because after all, this is the Hot Seat. Stay tuned. And welcome back to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat today is Ms. Maliha Siddiqui, all the way from the Dawn newspaper, the Dawn group of papers in Karachi, Pakistan. Ms. Siddiqui, we were talking earlier, you have a bit of claim to fame. You've done a bit of you did something which nobody else had done in Sri Lanka. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure.
What was it? Did you?
How did it happen? What happened?
What happened?
What happened?
You tell us. Why don't you tell us the story?
So I was here on vacation last year, and and I really just wanted to visit two places in Sri Lanka, and one of the places that I planned to visit was Tangaul. For two reasons, actually, because it has a church, and it has an ancient temple. I think it dates back to 6th century BC, and there is also a bird sanctuary. So I really wanted to see that and just get away from Colombo. And so it so happened that the guest house that I chose to stay outside of Colombo happened to be owned by someone, and who owned someone who was a journalist.
Okay.
And when I got talking to him, he suggested that if I'm going to Tangaul, why don't I meet the former president, Mr.
Just drop in and say hi.
Yeah, just drop in and say hi. And I thought, if I remember being incredulous, because I was like, is that possible? Because back home, there is so much security. And all these ministers and presidents are inaccessible. So for me, just the very idea was incredible. But he said, you go and meet, and he hasn't spoken to the press, so he might just speak to you. So although I was there on vacation, but it was too good a story to let go.
It's like a busman's holiday.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is exactly like a busman's holiday, but by the time I reached Tangaul, I found out the journalist friend had said, that I'll help you, and I know someone. Well, and who can provide you access. I was like, sure. But by the time I reached Tangaul, Mr. Rajapakse had left and had gone back to Colombo.
The former president?
Yes, the former president. So then I was, I was of course disappointed, but my friend kept pushing me. He said, no, you just stalk them. You know, basically I had to be a journalist,
right,
even though I was vacationing. So for 2 days I stalked the Carlton House. That's the name of his house.
Right. Yes.
So and I was there, and from 7 till 10 I would be just talking and hoping that he would come back. And on the third day he did, and his aide asked, you know, took me in, and you know, of course I had that privilege because I didn't have to stand in a queue. And he said, you know, okay, so before we met he said, you know, you want to meet Mr. Rajapaksa because he lives in your heart and in the heart of Pakistanis. And I was like, yes, of course. You know, but other than that, Sri Lanka, I have seen Sri Lankans really like Pakistanis a lot, and we are very warmly welcomed. Other than cricket, I realized there were other reasons as well. So finally I get to meet the big man.
Oh, right.
And he was there.
He was there?
Yeah, in his, you know, in this trademark outfit.
Okay.
The white shirt, and you know, he was there in a leather chair. I mean, it's like a dream. I can remember it. It's a very surreal experience. And I was introduced to him, and he shook my hands. He was very warm. He shook my hands very warmly and wouldn't let go. And when I told him I'm from Pakistan, and I just literally had 5 minutes. So whatever questions I remembered, I just, you know, went ahead and asked him, you know, why is it, you know, that Sri Lankans love Pakistan so much? And he said, it's because you guys helped us in insurgency. We have a common enemy. And I asked him, you know, what else can Pakistan do to bring Sri Lanka closer? So he spoke about the Buddhist relics that we have in Pakistan, because I'm sure, as you know, that the upper northern region of Pakistan was a cradle of Buddhism for several centuries. So we have very precious relics. And so he said, you know, we should promote that. We should look into that. And my final question was, you know, I asked him, do you still believe in astrology? And I thought he would get offended, to be very honest, you know, but well, he had a good laugh, and he comes close to me and he says, now I don't. You know, and we both laughed heartily, and I remember someone took a picture of us, and then you know, I was escorted out, and that's when I realized that, you know, I mean, you know, it was a coup, because he had called elections, you know, 50 days. He had called elections, early elections, based on the recommendation of his astrologer, and until then he hadn't spoken, and it was great because the interview was carried all over by all the agencies.
So yes, you had quite a scoop there.
Yeah.
President Rajapaksa hadn't at the time, as you say, spoken to any journalists. And of course some journalists may not have wanted to speak to him. But still, that's another story. So it's amazing that you're here, and Sri Lanka has been chosen by the
East-West Center and U.S. Embassy to host this event to us two friendly nations, Pakistan and India. And do you think that the troubles will get resolved anytime soon between India and Pakistan, or is it bound to carry on into the foreseeable future? Well, it needs to come down, and if the US in its own way is playing a part in bringing us together, Indian and Pakistani journalists in Sri Lanka at a neutral territory, so that we go back and we, in our own ways, change the narrative. And so it cannot escalate, because, you know, the repercussions are not only huge for India and Pakistan, but for the entire region. And I feel right now both countries are playing politics. So anytime soon, I'm not Nostradamus, but I really hope they do come down soon. And our minister, Foreign Minister Sartaj Aziz, is in Amritsar for the Heart of Asia conference in India.
Right.
So those efforts are continuing. So clearly at at some level they do recognize that dialogue is important, and we are two nuclear nations and we cannot afford this crisis to escalate any further.
And we'll take another short break from the Hot Seat. Don't go away. After all, this is the Hot Seat. And welcome back to the Hot Seat, where in the Hot Seat this evening is a reporter from the Dawn newspaper group from Pakistan, Miss Maliha Siddiqui. Miss Siddiqui, we notice obviously that you work for a newspaper. How easy is it to work in Pakistan as a member of the female species?
It's very easy. We're not Saudi Arabia, so that. Let me just set that out clear. We are in every profession, from Air Force pilot to commercial pilots to lawyers to.
No, so the ladies aren't being given a particularly hard time.
No, not at all. Actually, you'll be surprised to know that we even have a boxing club.
Oh, really?
Yes, we do. And in one of the most low-income groups, in the Indian reporting team that came to Pakistan did a story on that. So we have women boxers.
And then how is domestic violence then?
No, there is domestic violence.
Right.
There is.
So do you think they're all members of the club and they
should do that? Actually, they should beat their men up. Teach them a lesson. But no, domestic violence and violence against women is there, but that's also probably because it's being reported more. Mm-hmm. So it's highlighted more. And lots of legal reforms have taken place, and countries in the region are emulating or looking at our bills. So we have done a lot of legislation, and women are not like in the Gulf Arab countries. Mm-hmm. We can pretty much wear whatever we like and work wherever we like. And yes, you have to face sexism at the workplace. Mm-hmm. There is inherent misogyny, mm-hmm. and that is there, and that is something that you have to fight and struggle with. But that mm-hmm. is prevalent everywhere in every workplace of the world wherever women are working. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And
so what is the level of discrimination against women there then? Is it a problem? Are women's activist groups involved in anything like that?
No. There's no level of discrimination at all. And like I said, you can. And the NGOs and the civil society is very vibrant, and women are at the fore. And but like I said, we have to fight the everyday sexism and misogyny. Mm-hmm. That is there.
And how easy is it when you're out there in search of your next story, or you're investigating a particular story, and how easy is it to get about and?
It's very easy. Transportation is very easy. It's very accessible, and I work very late hours, and I've gone out for stories. My colleagues have gone out for stories at the most oddest of hours, and you work by instinct, actually. Right. So if you feel that the guy is a bit dodgy, you just do not hang around with that person or go with that person. And then your sources have to be credible. Sometimes we take a photographer along, just for safety purposes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we pretty much we can. If you look at our op-eds, if you look at the kind of journalism that is happening, women are doing brilliantly, and not just in my newspaper, mm-hmm. but in other regional languages as well, and in other channels as well. Right. So I think we're doing great. Yeah.
Good. And your interaction with your Indian colleagues from mm-hmm. the other side of the fence, so to speak.
Yes.
Is it good what you're doing?
Oh, it's very warm, very cordial. Because there's shared ancestry, there is shared language, shared food. Also, even if there's no shared ancestry, it is our first interaction with the southern part of India. And for example, we were discussing some ideas, and while everybody is familiar with the migration that took place during partition from the northern side of India, very few actually migrated from the southern part of India, but they did migrate. So people in south of India were unaware of the fact that this has happened. And even some of the food, the cuisine like dosas, you can actually find them in Karachi, and they were very surprised. So that interaction has been very good, very warm, as we're learning about each other. We also talk about, and we also have the same problems while working within our organizations, job insecurities, there are like salary issues, so and how their media, the rhetoric in their channels is just so hyper nationalistic, and ours also is similar. But of course theirs in terms of volume is far larger, because there are 400 news channels in India, whereas we have about 40 to 45. So comparatively it's nothing, but nevertheless we have the same hyper nationalistic rhetoric. Any criticism of any project of the government, you're immediately labeled as unpatriotic, and it's the same thing in India. So so that commonality also we share, and people from both sides of the border are desperate, are dying to come to each other's countries, and just are very curious. And it's very important that because the visa, I don't know whether you're aware of this or not, but getting the visa is a very tedious, is a very long process, and you're only given visa for a couple of cities. Normally when you're getting a visa to visit a country, you can visit any part of the country, but not in India and Pakistan. So that is a challenge in itself. So there are these challenges. Are you hopeful for a better region now that I suppose your that little drop in the pearl of the Indian Ocean, Sri Lanka, is also showing signs of a robust democracy and so on, and so it completes the quattro unit of Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. Absolutely. And you happy for your neighbours, happy for yourselves that this little group of countries is going ahead? Yes, I'm very happy, but I think it needs to speed up. We would like to see all this happening sooner in our lifetimes, and the sooner we get rid of our animosities, and we realize that and we can benefit from each other so much, so tremendously. So I'm very hopeful, and that the region acquires peace and prosperity. So yeah, definitely. Wonderful. Maliha Siddiqui, thank you very much for being in the hot seat, and we look forward to seeing you again when you're in the country. Do pop by and say hello. I will. Thank you for having me. You're very welcome indeed, and thank you very much for watching the hot seat. We'll be back same time, same place next week, straight after the news on Wednesday evening at 9:30 on TV1. Take care. Good night.